Okay, hi, it's Friday afternoon, take two. All right, so this is the weekly wrap up and of week three, and it'll be the introduction into week four. Okay, a couple of things about week three. One is that I do want to commend you all on your usage of the evaluation terminology that we're using in Rossi. This is allowing us to have a more precise exchange of ideas and thought, and so it's allowing for a much more interesting and nuanced discussion. So, two thumbs up there. Okay. Um, the second thing is just to review a little bit about the two types of studies that we focused on this week. The first is the needs assessment, and that's fairly straightforward, but it is in essence the starting point, right? If you um, What's the point of having a program if it's not actually going to meet a need? And so the needs assessment identifies the need that actually needs addressing. And in a sense, the corollary is to NMP 665 and the policy model that we studied there in week three by Chambers and Waddell. And if you recall, the first step in the policy formulation process is an identification of the problem, right? That there are enough people suffering from the same sort of problem and need that it becomes identified as something that the government needs to address. And it's very much the same here at the program level. You want to make sure you're clear on what it is that you're trying to address. You know, what's that need that you're trying to address in running any type of program. Okay, and from that then comes the second type of evaluation and the second step, frankly, in the process, which is the formulating a program theory that if I do X, Y, and Z, I'll actually accomplish something that will address the need that I've identified. And so it's the if-then sort of scenario. And so there are three elements to this program theory, and uh, three parts to the theory. Thank you. The first part is the impact theory. That's sort of the if-then that I just spoke of. If we do this, then we should see an improvement and an addressing of the need that we've identified. The second part is in terms of implementation of whatever this if is that we're going to do, the service utilization plan has to do with, can the recipients of the service actually do what the program is asking them to do? Okay, if in fact the program design requires the service recipient to do something that they're not really capable of doing, then they're clearly not going to be able to receive the service, hence the need won't be addressed. And the third component here is the organizational plan. And this is what capacities and what does the providing organization need to have in order to, quote, provide that service, right? And if the organization doesn't have the capacity to actually implement the program as designed in terms of what the organization has to provide and do on the if side of the theory, then again, it doesn't, the service or the desired service and the intended service won't be provided. Hence, we won't get the then portion, the amelioration of the need, of the identified need. Okay, and so the program theory enables you to do two important things. First, it helps you think about, is this a logical scenario? In other words, if we can actually provide X, Y, and Z, will it actually address the need that we've identified? And in terms of the actual operational plan on how to provide the service doesn't make sense from the client perspective, doesn't make sense from the organizational perspective. And if any of those three areas doesn't make sense, then we know that you need to either modify or scrap the program theory and start over again, okay? Because ultimately the program theory is the ideal that we're trying to strive for. Okay, and that relates then to the second part, that the program theory establishes the standard against which we're going to measure the reality of how the program is implemented. Okay, I'll just read there. Theory establishes the standard against which the actual implementation of the program is to be judged. And so that leads us into week 4, where we're going to look at the process or implementation evaluation and the impact or outcome evaluation. And just 2 quick things then about the process / implementation evaluation. Again, you can only measure the faithfulness of the actual implementation against the theory in terms of detail. I got this screwed up here last time I tried to do this this video, and so I started over. But let me see if I can just read it here. You can measure the faithful implementation of a program only to the level of detail specified in the program theory. If the theory is overly generalized and therefore vague, then you won't be able to judge with certainty if the program is being implemented as intended. Okay, so it's sort of like if you think about the program theory and the utilization plan and the organizational plan as being a ruler, well, the finer the gradation is of the ruler, then the finer will be your ability to measure whether the actual implementation measures up to those the details of your ruler. And so if the ruler doesn't have any markings on it, any specificity in terms of what the if is, if we do X, Y, and Z, you won't be able to actually measure if you're doing that specificity that's on the program theory ruler. Okay, hopefully that worked. And so related to that then, the evaluation questions that you are developing and that are asked in a program in an implementation / process evaluation have to be specified enough that the answers help you get the information so that you can actually crosswalk between what's actually happening and that specificity in the program theory, right? And so you don't want to have sort of questions that are not valid and not reliable, using that statistic term again. In other words, you don't want questions that people could misinterpret and so give you answers to questions you're not actually giving. And you also don't want the answers to be so vague that they leave open, well, did you really do what the program said you were supposed to do? Right? Again, if the answer can be vague, then you can't really make the crosswalk between the information you gathered and the specificity of the theory. Okay? It's sort of like the 5 W's and an H that you learned back in middle school somewhere, right? You want to be able to clarify who, what, where, why, when, and how in terms of the provision of the service and the reception or the receiving of the services by those who are intended to benefit from it. And so your questions have to be specific enough that you can answer those 5 W's and a how to a level of specificity that is contained in the program theory. Okay? And then lastly, we'll have the impact. We'll talk about the impact study, and this is essentially, I'll just read it here. The impact study tries to determine if you've done all the operational activities as specified in the program theory, did you actually get the outcomes, the benefits that you anticipated and or hoped for? Okay, so the distinction there being that the implementation study talks about kind of what you did, and the impact study talks about the results of what you did, the benefits or the lack of benefits um, of what you did compared to that need that you identified way back at the beginning. Okay? All right, I guess that's all for now. I'll get to your grading this week's assignments either later today, but no, probably tomorrow. And then if you're having any problems getting the next case study that we're supposed to read next week, please just text me. I'll just put it up on the canvas here. But, you know, in going strictly by the rules, you know, I'm not supposed to do that. That's illegal for me to do. So try to get the case studies through Harvard as directed, I guess. Okay? All right. I think that's all. 11 minutes. Have a good weekend. It's going to snow here in Longmeadow this tomorrow. Hopefully, wherever you are, you'll be safe and you'll enjoy it. Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye.